The deadly carrier scam. A chameleon carrier, to be specific. You will not believe this one. Southwest new seating and boarding rules not going down really good with their customers. And finally, not nearly perfect. Absolutely 100% perfect. You will not believe this one. Welcome to the Jay Sheldon Show. Happy Tuesday. Yeah, it's Tuesday. We're so glad you're here. Thank you for popping by. If you are watching us live right now on Rumble, fantastic. Welcome in. Be sure if you have not followed the show, you hit the follow button down there. And also, of course, you might be watching us on our video delay on our YouTube channel or X, or listening to the podcast at Spotify, Apple iTunes, all the podcast platforms. If you haven't found us over there, by all means, please do head over there and subscribe. Just search out the Jay Sheldon Show, and that's how you find us. It's just that easy. Now, before we get started, I want to tell you about one of our favorite partners here on the program, and that, my friends, is Patriot Mobile. Patriot Mobile is just simply the best cell phone service provider there is on the planet. Folks, whenever something goes viral, you can absolutely rest assured that the frauds are going to jump on the bandwagon. They're going to be pretending they're all patriotic, waving the flag, yay, rah, rah. Believe me, they are not. For more than 10 years now, Patriot Mobile's been America's only Christian conservative wireless provider. They're right there with us in this fight. They've been a great supporter of this show, and they are the only cell phone service provider that's actually right there on the front lines defending our freedom. They offer dependable nationwide coverage across all three major networks, which means you get exactly the same coverage you've been used to, sometimes even better. And you're not funding the left or companies that pretend to be patriotic when they are absolutely not. When you make the switch to Patriot Mobile, you're supporting a company that is defending free speech, religious freedom, the sanctity of life, our military, first responders. They are 100% U.S. based, including their customer service. So they speak your language. They're right here in the U.S. with us. They're there to help you and get you in a plan that fits with your budget. You go to patriotmobile.com/J, patriotmobile.com/J. You'll get free activation and a free month. Your first month is free when you use that link to get signed up. Don't be fooled by these fake patriotic TV ads. Partner with the only wireless provider that actually lives our values. Our values. Make the switch today. patriotmobile.com/J. And we appreciate that. They have been a big supporter of this show. We hope you will check them out. Just hit the link, find out more. You will likely be convinced they're the one to go with. And remember, America's only Christian conservative wireless provider. You keep your phone number, nothing changes except you're not funding the left and all those causes. patriotmobile.com/J. Thank you, folks, for that. Marilyn, good morning. Welcome in. Here again. Blessed be and praise the Lord. Yes, indeed. Well, I'll tell you what, this chameleon carrier scam is absolutely deadly, and it is absolutely frightening. This has all been exposed after that story we told you about, the illegal alien trucker that killed the Amish family members. This deadly semi-truck versus a van accident, which happened in Indiana last week, increased a lot of people looking a lot closer on this shadowy network of truck companies that seem to be mostly responsible for putting these illegal aliens and unqualified foreign nationals who don't even speak English, most of them, in the driver's seat of big rigs all across, crisscrossing this country every single day. One of these drivers, Kyrgyzstani national Bekzan Bayshakiv, is the one believed to be responsible for that crash in Indiana that killed the Amish family members. He was taken into custody by ICE But there are apparently a lot of other drivers just like him all over the roads of America right now as we speak. They're out there. And they've been put out there by these chameleon carriers, as they call them. Reportedly is a new trucking business model that has sprung up in urban areas, high concentrations of illegal aliens, networks of these carriers who all work together to fraudulently swap business names and the DOT numbers to keep illegals on the road and avoid any kind of enforcement. Follow closely here because it's important. The DOT Secretary, Sean Duffy, has vowed to use the full force of the federal government to get to the bottom of this very deadly scam that's gone on well under the radar for years now, saying the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration is going to be working around the clock to expose and hold accountable the Chameleon Carrier Company involved in this fatal Indiana crash. Unbelievable. The employers of the illegal alien semi-truck that killed the 4 Amish men are fraudulent. They are being investigated. They swapped DOT numbers, and teams are currently actively gathering information at AJ Partners, Sam Express Inc., and others. This is freaking insane. These interconnected carriers have all the markings of fraud, and they are being accused of being what they call chameleon characters. Because, chameleons can change their color. That's what these people are doing. These companies are swapping names, swapping DOT numbers, all to avoid any kind of enforcement. The team is also on the ground investigating the driver entry training school, Idana Inc., which helped this unvetted, unqualified driver get behind the wheel in the very first place. If, in fact, this is a sham school, other licenses they support are going to all be called into question. They look at every single damn one of them. And the FMCSA, Motor Carrier Safety Admin, working around the clock to hold anybody involved in this horrific crime accountable. Now, setting up this chameleon carrier company, apparently very simple. You start with a metropolitan area which has a lot of illegal manpower, abundance of truck leasing companies like Penske, and then you file with the FMCSA. It reportedly takes about a year to 18 months for them to perform a safety audit of a new trucking company. In the meantime, the Archie program, Application Review and Chameleon Identification, is supposed to screen new applicants by taking a look at the registration data and matching that against existing carriers, looking for shared addresses, phone numbers, officer names, emails, VINs, whatever. But the bad actors know the math. Register multiple authorities like burner phones. Use them until they accumulate too many violations, and then shut that one down and activate the next one. The equipment, the drivers, the dispatch operations, the back office, none of it changes, just the name on the door changes. The key to success seems to lie with this cheap illegal labor on which they can run companies, and they prey on illegals who are all desperate for money. And so now you've got cheap truck leases, cheap and very abundant labor eager to work, and government approval with very little oversight. Slow safety audits, and from there to grow is simple. It becomes a numbers game as to when and where some sort of fatal accident is eventually going to happen. Trying to unmask and dismantle these networks of chameleon carriers, just one step in trying to get justice for those people killed in this deadly con game. And believe me, this Amish family, not the first by a long shot. We've been reporting on these accidents for a absurdly long time. Department of Homeland Security blasted Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro last week for allowing this guy to, he's a Philadelphia resident, by the way, for allowing him to get a CDL that put him on that road in Indiana last week and killed that family. Unbelievable. They're working on it. They're trying to get to the bottom of it. But these chameleon carriers are the problem. And they will get found out. They will get prosecuted. We can pray for that. We do indeed. We still can't get rid of the Super Bowl chit chat and bullshit and Bad Bunny and all that other crap. Well, just a couple more stories, I promise, because it's interesting. TMZ did a poll in which they compared Bad Bunny to the Kid Rock performance, and I don't think it went exactly as they expected. I've never really heard of this guy, Big Bunny, and so they announced he was going to be the halftime show at the Super Bowl, and everybody started talking about him. I don't really understand Spanish, a little bit because I worked in the Florida Keys in the Sheriff's Department, so a lot of Cuban Spanish speakers down there. But if you don't know his songs, it was kind of a bit of a miss, even before you get to all the political questions. For a lot of Americans who didn't understand what he was singing about, there was really no effort to explain the words to his songs or the meaning about what he was trying to say. So the Lady Gaga segment with English, wedding dancing, bit of a welcome respite from the Spanish crap. Behind Martin, dancers who were dressed as jibaros in pavas, Puerto Rican farmers in traditional straw hats, climbed on top of exploding power poles, which is supposed to symbolize the island's failing power grid. And Bad Bunny stood before the power poles waving a Puerto Rican flag in the air as he performed his track El Apagón, protesting against the recurring power outages. Did you get that? Yeah, I'm doubting almost no one got it at all. And then maybe you vote your Democrats out in local government. Just a thought. What some people did notice, though, was that during that segment, about 10 minutes, 20 seconds into it, he was waving a Puerto Rican flag, but that flag had a slight change. It was light blue, where it should have been darker blue. Very subtle, but a change. And that light blue has recently been associated with the push for independence for Puerto Rico. Another subtle political point. Meanwhile, the TPUSA halftime show pulled in some of the folks turned off, or rather look at something other than Bad Bunny. Latest reports are in the tens of millions of viewers across all platforms, which is fantastic. And TMZ had put out a poll over who had the better show, Bad Bunny or Kid Rock. And I'm not so sure they expected the results they were going to get back. Turning Point crushed Bad Bunny during this vote. Do we have the actual? I think we do. I don't know if we can get to the, here we go. Here's the most recent numbers. Take a look at this. Who had the better halftime show? Kid Rock, 64.5%. Bad Bunny, 35.5%. Sorry. Oops. Yeah, that ain't working out for you quite the way you expected. That sounds like a big message to the NFL. Biggest comment about their halftime show, that it was turning people off. People were going elsewhere. Unbelievable. The numbers keep coming in, and every one of them better or worse, depending upon what side you're on, than the last. All right. Let's hope we can put this whole Bad Bunny crap to bed, please, because I'm really kind of getting tired of talking about it. I think I'm not going to anymore. Okay. Do you have a Ring camera on your front door? A lot of people do. A lot of people do. In fact, so many people do that basically what y'all have set up, I don't. I do have a security camera in my house, but I don't have a Ring camera at my front door. But these Ring cameras have basically wound up, because there's so many of them everywhere, they've kind of created a spy network. Yeah. Look, a lot of people have dogs, okay? For a good reason. They're man's best friend. Nothing wrong with a lovable, loyal mutt. Our little Miko baby's running around here somewhere. By the way, it is this weekend coming the start of Chinese New Year, which is huge over here. We have a huge Chinese population in this country, and Chinese New Year is a big, 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 big holiday. The fireworks are going to be out of this world insane, even in my small little suburban neighborhood here. But Miko hates fireworks. She will scratch the floor and hide under anything she'll fit under. And I'm getting prepared for a very bad weekend. Anyway, there is nothing that says love more than a adorable puppy or dog. We all know that. Telling people who say you can't buy love, well, you just never had a puppy. Dogs are great. We love them. In fact, we love them so much that some people will go to great lengths from losing them. And for a lot of people, that means putting in a doorbell camera. When a security company starts changing the feed from these cameras to set up a neighborhood spy camera network, well, that seems to be going just a little bit too far. Ring, the camera company, spent millions on a Super Bowl ad celebrating their camera network for finding lost dogs. Reframing that, a corporation built a neighborhood surveillance grid and managed to convince millions of people in this country that they should install it themselves. Dogs are marketing. Data is the product. This is a screen grab from that ad that ran in the Super Bowl. Look at all these Ring cameras. Introducing Search Party. Yeah, it ain't Search Party, pal. It's a spy network. If you look at that still in the X post, it seems to indicate there's a lot of dead space in that camera grid. The Ring cameras go about around the curb, leave out a lot of gaps between the houses. Now, color me skeptical, but it seems a lot of these doorbell camera videos, some of which are funny, some are serious, people running off across the street, down the sidewalk, exploding delivery packages. This is the actual ad that ran in the Super Bowl for the Ring camera. Take a look and listen at this.
Pets are family, but every year, 10 million go missing. And the way we look for them hasn't changed in years. Until now. One post of a dog's photo in the Ring app starts outdoor cameras looking for a match. Search Party from Ring uses AI to help families find lost dogs. Since launch, more than a dog a day has been reunited with their family. Be a hero in your neighborhood with Search Party. Available to everyone for free right now. Join the neighborhood at ring.com.
Rings has aired its the first Super Bowl commercial in 2026.
There you go. Okay, now take out the dog aspect, okay, because that's just to appeal to your softer side. Now put in the human aspect. As you might expect, I got some questions. First of all, how are all of these cameras independently installed in people's homes interconnected? Did you know your camera was connected with a network of other cameras? Do or do you not have your own dedicated server? Or are you part of a giant cloud system? And more importantly, who has access to all this information? And to what end? Can they track your dog, assuming it doesn't run out the front door and run off out of camera view, all the way down the street into some adjacent street? Does the user agreement allow the company, Ring, to use the feed from my camera to solve somebody else's problem? Now, I'm not necessarily against that, but I would think you'd have to have my permission to access my camera footage. That's likely in the user agreement, which, of course, nobody reads, myself included. And finally, what happens if someone with nefarious intent gets access to the feed from all of these cameras in the neighborhood? That would be a disaster. You could destroy evidence, simply monitor movements of not dogs, people throughout the neighborhood, when they come and go, when their houses are empty, etc. Look, security cameras are not a bad idea. We got a whole bunch of them around this neighborhood. There are a lot, but they're independent. They're not some part of a cloud system. Not necessarily Ring cameras, other brands. You read the user agreement, and yes, the company claims to limit access to the data, which means nobody looks unless we ask them to. But every silver lining comes with a cloud. Like so many of these life-changing aspects of big tech, this one is exactly that. Cameras can be a great crime-fighting tool, but Big Brother is lurking out there. Who has access to your footage? And did you change your password from what was the factory set of probably something like username and password or user123? Likely you did not, which means any hacker, even a simple one, could easily access your camera and see whatever's going on. Denny says, Ring is terrible. It's not great picking up on motion. Someone my daughter went to school with egged our house, and it didn't detect anything. Wow, can go get a better security camera that rolls 24/7. Why can't they use that for children abduction? Also a good question. They use Blink. Don't do cloud, but we have it here. I forget what it's called. Ours goes to a stick, not to the cloud. Wow. All right, so it is potentially a problem, and one you ought to be paying attention to. Who owns your data and who's looking at it? It's very important you follow up on that. Find out. Well, the verdict is in, and it ain't really that good for Southwest Airlines. Everybody, and by everybody I mean everybody, hates Southwest's new seat boarding rules. They've got new assigned seating, which has put its reputation with Americans who have absolutely fallen in love with the Southwest brand at total risk. There's a problem, folks. Southwest was once the absolute beloved airline of basic average Americans like you and I. But those days may very well be over after the Dallas-based company used their 30 seconds of Super Bowl fame Sunday night in order to mock their customers and their affinity for open seating. The Boarding Royale advertisement, which I think we have, we'll play for you in a minute. It begins with clips of passengers clamoring through the forest, trying to get their butts on a plane on their seat of choice, which are laid out in rows in a random field. One couple hurls a log as they lament the Group C boarding status they received after allegedly checking in a minute late. Screaming woman with a satchel swings by a vine, another one dragging her luggage across the forest floor, claiming she can't have a middle seat. I'll tell you what, probably the best way to explain this is to simply play it for you. Audio's up? Yep. Watch this.
Southwest boarding begins now.
Oh no, Group C.
I thought you checked us in last night.
Well, I was a minute late.
I can't have a middle seat. Just hurry up. We gotta sit together. No, move it faster. It's pandemonium.
Act natural.
Is this seat taken?
You gotta ask him.
I am not sitting in a middle seat. Get out of the way.
Assigned seating is here. Yay! Well, maybe not yay. Unbelievable. The only way to describe most of that 30 seconds is chaos. But the Pandemonium Southwest so-called self-aware depiction of its long-standing open seating policy has nothing on customers' reports of the bedlam and the befuddlement caused by new assigned seating regimes. They ain't going so well. The pay-to-park policy has been in effect for less than 2 weeks. And so far the report card, not good. Complaints that previously smooth boarding process, now disorderly, dysfunctional, inefficient, prolonged, to the point of delaying actual plane departures. Passengers scrambling to find the seats they paid for before quietly rolling in. If Southwest's perception of its previous boarding process was the jungle, its new enhancements have apparently turned flights into a complete zoo. Families who were once honored by Southwest with their own boarding groups, now subject to separation policies. Separated from the people you love in your family when you board the plane. You're up here, he's back there, she's over here. Parents have to pay extra to sit with their underage children. Yeah. This airline decision to ditch their bags fly free policy, started charging for checked luggage. That happened May 25th. Seemed to have been the only it just made things worse. Inevitable influx of carry-ons paired with new boarding systems means passengers desperate to avoid paying yet another charge, cramming their luggage separately from where they sit, forcing their way through throngs of people, all deplaning to get their luggage in some cargo hold way behind their seat. There is simply no reason to fly Southwest anymore, my friends. Serious, if you're a dedicated passenger, you know the differences. If you haven't, you will soon. You don't have the lowest fares. Miles, status, don't matter because of how badly you dorked up boarding. And the service quality, also way down. Fun, cheery flight attendants now all have been apparently replaced by these nasty, bossy cranks with bad attitudes. Seriously. The frustration appears to be resounding with hundreds of commentators on X who said that Southwest pivot away from their simple, flexible, affordable branding. Even corporate media like the Wall Street Journal, the New York Times, printing stories more than hinting that people miss the charm and the convenience of Southwest policies that they brought to sky travel. They got a lot of problems, and apparently they are turning a deaf ear to these problems. They're just not paying much attention. So, fine, Southwest. You know how we deal with people like you. Oh, man. All right. Let's talk about some coffee, shall we? Let's talk about our friends over at Blackout Coffee. Hang on, I need a sip. Look at this. I told you, Blackout Coffee always has these great deals constantly going on. And right now, a holiday that's coming up, Valentine's Day, don't forget it. You can crush it this Valentine. And yes, you still have time to order and get your order before the holiday. Buy any flavored coffee and you get a second one half off. 50% off the second one at Blackout Coffee. You can absolutely crush it. What a great gift. I know you think coffee for Valentine's Day, but trust me, these flavors, Jamaican me crazy, blueberry crumble, cherry jelly donut, she or he will absolutely love it. The Bongino Army, they've got their own flavor roast now. Fantastic. Holiday editions, pumpkin spice. The only one that's not sold out, that's how fast these things go, at 40% off, I might add. You can get a subscription, so you don't have to worry about ordering when you run out. It'll be right there at your door, and you get a great savings. All these fantastic flavors, and now not just roasts, but you can get them ground as an option in some of their more popular roasts. Pitch Black Espresso, that's the name of the game here at the Jay Sheldon Show. But no matter what, pick out, they've got pods, cold brew, instant coffees. It's all fantastic, and it all comes from an American company right here. They work with American farmers to grow the best beans, and they deliver them right to your doorstep. It's fantastic stuff. Try a single bag. I promise you, you'll be back for more. The link is in our show notes for Blackout Coffee. Follow that. Get yourself an order in there for a good, bold, strong cup of coffee that's never bitter at Blackout Coffee. Thanks, Blackout. The Trump administration has defeated what we know as the seditious six by going on the offense. You remember this. Happened a while ago, but it's still going on. They called for a mutiny, and the administration has decided to go on the offense and make them tap dance just a little bit. Democrat Senator Elisa Slotkin just got something right. Unfortunately for her, she doesn't understand what she was right about. Back in November, these 6 congressional morons, Democrats, put out a video on social media to speak directly to members of the military and the intelligence community. Now, the meaning of their message, hotly debated ever since it came out, and mostly not in good faith. But if you've watched the videos since then, take a minute and watch it again, because it'll be important to remember exactly what they said. We want to speak directly to members of the military and the intelligence community. The American people need you to stand up for our laws and our Constitution. Don't give up the ship. Now, from the moment that video got released, Democrats, legacy media, corporate media, they have falsely characterized this message as simply a reminder of the military duty to not obey illegal orders. And how could that be offensive, right? Well, if anyone ever gives you an illegal order, then at that hypothetical future point, you should disobey. It was a 90-second video that simply restated the existing laws that if you're in the military, you have the responsibility to refuse illegal orders. But that's not what they were doing. Watch closely between the 30-second mark and the 47-second mark, and you'll see what they're up to. Take a look. This administration is pitting our uniformed military. Pitting. You hear the wording there? They are pitting the military against the country. They told a story about a current ongoing constitutional crisis, an assault on Americans by the person they elected to the presidency by a huge majority. They depicted Trump as an illegitimate president. Orders were illegal, called for immediate disobedience from the armed forces. They used the phrase, right now, take a look, to protect and defend this Constitution right now. You see that? It's right there. Their message was a call for the armed forces to immediately defeat an internal enemy. The words, right now. That's what they were saying to the military. Donald Trump is a threat to America, so the presidency has to be treated as being illegitimate. His orders regarded as illegal and immediately disobeyed. They weren't using the phrase right now because they meant to educate service members about a potential future event. Right now means right freaking now. They were wish casting a mutiny, calling for immediate, widespread military disobedience. Speaking in the present tense, not the future tense. The project went sideways the moment they began. Asked to name the illegal orders they were referring to, these 6 Democrats recorded this message. They pivoted to the claim they were doing theoretical prophylaxis, educating people in the armed forces just in case a hypothetical illegal order ever came up at some remote, distant point. And they never meant to say that Trump was issuing any specific illegal orders. They never meant that. They said they placated shock, confusion at the thought that anyone would ever take their message that way. But flatly, that's not what they were doing. They were promoting constitutional crisis. They were calling for an immediate resistance to the civilian control of the military, openly telling people in the armed forces to stop obeying the President of the United States right now. Right now means right now. So, the administration responded with a righteous amount of fury, instantly didn't quit that course. All the corporate media pearl clutching didn't help. They attacked, labeled the Democrats, this is the admin, labeled the Democrats as the seditious 6, an appropriate name. Pete Hegseth announced that Mark Kelly, retired captain in the Navy, faced a review at which he retired, might see his retirement pay reduced. That has since happened. If the admin's punitive response to this seditious 6 end up failing as policy, it is absolutely still succeeding as politics. There's a difference. Trump, Hegseth, changed the topic of conversation. Now no one is actively considering or advancing the dangerous argument that the armed forces should refuse to obey orders from the current commanders. Democrats, who were told people serving the armed forces should disobey right now, have lost the argument. Sorry, you're done. The conversation apparently is over, and the administration pretty much ended it. And yes, Kelly is getting a lot less money these days, and that's a good thing. That is a very good thing. What else we got going on that's good news? Do we have some? Because I really could use a little bit of good news these days. Not a lot going on, I'm afraid. Man. Oh, yeah. Thank you. A judge has stopped California from unmasking ICE agents. Democrat violence increases. Finally, a judge has stepped in. He's ruled in favor yesterday of Trump admin and ICE attacks on federal officers continue to spike. California laws against ICE being masked violates the supremacy clause of the Constitution, according to the February 9th court ruling. That will prevent increased doxing of immigration officers, which is fantastic. Fox's Bill Malugin announcing the ruling Monday afternoon, breaking LA federal-based Judge Christina Snyder, who was a Clinton appointee, blocked California from enforcing its law that requires ICE agents to unmask, arguing the law discriminates against the federal government by singling it out and violates the supremacy clause. U.S. government, the plaintiff against California Governor Newsom and Attorney General Bonta, or the No Secret Police Act was what they called it, or No Vigilantes Act. How disgustingly ironic is it that Newsom and Bonta are trying to protect illegal alien criminals and masked leftist domestic terrorists, and whining about federal agents being masked? Yeah, exactly. Very recent reason for the masks on ICE, Border Patrol. Death threats against ICE are up 8,000%. 8,000%. Assaults up by 1,347%. This is insane. Leftists going out of their way to dox ICE agents and their families, carry out violent acts on these officers or the hotels they're staying in. California Democrats, the same ones who enforced mask mandates when the pandemic was going on, aren't worried about masked law enforcement. Just another way to protect foreign and domestic criminals. And that is all coming at the expense of enforcing our immigration laws, which is a shame. We finally have a trans athlete. I know, but bear with me. We finally have a trans athlete that the media doesn't give a crap about. They're not gushing all over this trans athlete. Remember when the press could not stop fawning over these trans athletes who are all shattering the records in women's sports? It was yesterday, right? Yeah, something like that. They acted like watching males dominate females in competition was some kind of moral triumph. Every story turned into a sermon on diversity and acceptance. Coverage of Will Leah Thomas stands out as a very classic example. Major outlets crowned Thomas a hero, a pioneer, for becoming the first male athlete to win a women's division. Called Thomas a trailblazer. Can you hear the absurdity in what I'm saying? They gushed over the way he was crushing his female competition, turning a blind eye to the stories he was exposing his male genitalia to the other female teammates in the locker room. Now, fast forward to the Winter Olympics going on right now. Suddenly, those same outlets, radio silence on transgender athletes. It is so quiet, you can hear a pin drop. You may or may not likely have heard about Ellis Lundholm, 23-year-old Swedish mogul skier. Now, there is a reason for that. Lundholm is the first and only openly trans athlete competing at this Winter Games. But outside of a handful of puff pieces, the mainstream media apparently wants nothing to do with this story. Why? Because it exposes every contradiction and every shred of hypocrisy baked into their gender ideology crusade. Lundholm is a biological female who identifies as a man, but is competing in the women's category at the Milan Cortina Games. Okay, again, remember, a woman, biological, identifies as a man and competes in the women's games at the Olympics. The Olympic Committee even said the quiet part out loud. Ellis Lundholm competes in the female category, which is aligned with the same sex of this athlete. Read that again. Ellis Lundholm competes in the female category, which is aligned with the sex of this athlete. ESPN, CNN, New York Times, Washington Post, they've all spent years gushing over transgender athletes, especially when it meant demanding that males be allowed to compete in women's sports. According to Outkick, not one of any one of these outlets has covered this Lundholm woman. Not even a basic news story. Not one. Because it completely undermines their favorite narrative about trans athletes. We are constantly told that refusing to let males who identify as women compete in female sports leads to terrible outcomes, even the taking of their own lives. And yet when females who identify as men and then compete as women, not much of a story there, apparently. We all know she would not be there if she'd been competing with men during her career. Apparently, as far as I can see in any research, Lundholm has not competed against any men in her career, which makes sense because she likely would never have made it to the Olympics if she had. So the choice for her was obvious. Compete against the women, even though I identify as a man. And the outlets, corporate media, not interested. No stories here. Because they know that covering this story would mean they would have to admit what they have denied for years. It would mean acknowledging that sex in sports matters, not gender identity. It would mean confronting their own insane, ridiculous narrative head on. And they ain't gonna do that, for damn sure. So, good on you. Corporate media, screw off. We're not interested anymore. Okay. This, because we're talking about sports, women's sports in particular, this is a 12-second video. It is from China. It is not AI. This is the absolute most insane dive I have ever seen. I'm not a big fan, but I do like watching diving once in a while because it's incredible. Some of the, and the idea when you're in diving is when you enter the water to create as little splash as you can. That is the mark of an excellent dive. This is a 17-year-old Chinese diver named Quan Hong Chan, who did not do a nearly perfect dive. She did a perfect dive. I will play this twice so you can see it more clearly. Watch this, and in particular, watch her entry into the water. Incredible. Look at that. Look at that. There is no splash. Look at that. Perfect freeze. That's actually a millisecond after she entered the water. There's one little tiny piece of white there in between the, let's see, second and third ring. That, my friends, is perfection. That I have never in my life seen anything even close to that. Wow. Congratulations, Kwan Hong Chen, 17 years old. My dear, you have a hell of a career ahead of you. That is insane. Not near perfect. That was perfect. We're done. We're out of here. I dove into a pool once and smashed my nose at the bottom. Oh, yeah. And you're right. She was very high on that platform. I don't know what that meter was, but it was up there. That was a big, high platform. All right, we're done. Thank you, folks, for popping by. Thanks so much. Please follow the show, hit subscribe or follow wherever it is on whatever platform you're watching, X, YouTube, here on Rumble, and our Spotify and Apple iTunes podcast. Check us out over there or wherever you get your podcasts. Most importantly, please, our sponsors, Blackout Coffee, Patriot Mobile. Use those links down there in our show notes. Get signed up. Helps that company out, which helps support our values, and it helps keep this show free for you. We really do appreciate that. We'll see you again tomorrow for the Wednesday edition of The Jay Sheldon Show.